Speaking of the OEMs, it seems you've received a lot of very strong support from the OEMs. Have they provided you with any feedback on what their goals are for participating or what their vision is for the future of these types of sessions?
Well, we normally really have them come to speak. They don't ask us for any feedback. They don't really try and direct us anyway. They're really reacting to our thoughts of what our audience would like to hear. So there isn't really that much communication that way. They attend the show, they send speakers, and then, of course, they gather their own ideas of what's going on. They either from the number of attendees or the kinds of questions that are asked, the other people on the podium there. So I think they're drawing their own conclusions. We don't really supply them with any kind of information unless they come up with a direct request. I haven't seen one personally. So
yeah, well, it's not surprising. Having spent a number of years around the OEMs, I very much enjoy working with them, but it is sometimes a little bit difficult to get an awful lot of feedback from them because they have their own corporate technical advantages and proprietary things they're working on that they have to be careful not to disclose. But I will say that from my experience at the symposiums, the OEM participation has been very good. I think at the last one earlier this year, just about everyone who's involved and HEV manufacturing was represented and gave some type of presentation. And I know that's certainly useful to me and the other people in the supply chain. Going forward, at least from my standpoint, seeing how useful these are, I'm hoping that the plan is to continue them. What type of plans does SAE have for the future symposiums? And is there anything new that you're considering that we might look forward to?
Well, we're talking with different people to refresh these things. We're actually hoping to get a little bit more technical. As you go to some of these events, sometimes the presentations are really not that deep with technology and other details that might be more interesting to engineers. You just mentioned a minute ago, there's the knowledge that the companies have themselves, their own proprietary information. You can't really ask them to disclose, but I think my future philosophy here is going to be, please just take us right up to that point where it becomes proprietary, because everybody would like to hear that. I was at one event back in February, and someone gave a presentation which I thought was really nice. And when they were talking about their own company, they came up with a way to rate things, and they'd say, well, this particular item cost us X, and then this other related component cost us 1.3X. So right there, they were giving us some scale anyways. You might have to plug in your own numbers and maybe guess, but at least you had an idea of where these costs were relative to components maybe in a complete unit or their own products, maybe from one chemical to another, that kind of thing. So even that, I think, would be of value to an engineer attending a show, as opposed to just getting, what the numbers of electric motors are going to be again this year. It's okay. We know they sold 50,000 electric motors last year. They're going to sell 55,000 this year. Well, I think our engineers would like a little bit more depth. So,
yeah, well, I agree with that, and we'll certainly look forward to getting a little bit more in the way of technical information out of some of the programs. I would have to say, from our viewpoint, they haven't been particularly light. It has been very worthwhile to attend and hear what the people have to say. But just like you, I also have an engineering background, and anything additional they can give me in the way of technical input, I'm always eager to receive. I know as far as your sessions in North America, it's pretty much been holding that the February session has been out in the West Coast in California, and the March or April session has been in the Midwest. As a Midwesterner, I, number one, want to tell you how happy I am with that type of arrangement. I certainly like getting out to the West Coast in January or February, and just wondered, do you have any plans to continue this pattern, or do you have anything you can share with us as far as other locations you may be looking at?
Vegas. No, I'm just kidding. Vegas in February. No, that wouldn't really fly. No, the standard that we have right now, the hybrid vehicle program that you just mentioned first, that's February, that's been held for 7 or 8 plus years in Southern California. And the location does have a lot to do with that. People like to get away, so we're probably going to keep that in Southern California. And then the Midwest for this electric motors event is probably going to stay here as well. We're going to be moving back to Indianapolis next year, but I could maybe even see, in the future, if we didn't have it in Detroit or Indianapolis again, perhaps maybe going possibly to like Greenville, South Carolina, or Charlotte, North Carolina, someplace where there's a lot of activity for electric vehicles and where there could be support for the program based on companies that are already there.
Yeah, well, that's a good point, because we very definitely are seeing a lot of the manufacturing, also some of the technical resources resources, locating into that areas would probably be a very interesting choice to try and attract some people that wouldn't have to travel quite so far. I kind of like that.
This is the end of the second module interview with Ray Bakerjian. The program continues on Part 3. Part